Hey everybody, this is John for MTG Nexus with another deck guide for the modern format. This one, a deck that used to be very near and dear in my heart. Back ago in a galaxy far, far away, before I actually even played Modern Burn, I do believe, a Nausem Combo was a deck that I played a lot on Magic Online, long before I was doing recording, long before I was playing Paper Magic, and the main thrust of it was there was a Magic Online screen name player called Sneaky Pete that always played this deck and always did well with it. And it's a deck that did serve me well for quite some time. It has kind of really fallen on hard times, especially with the banning of Simian Spirit Guide. It used to win with the card Lightning Storm using the 3 copies of Simian Spirit Guide. Lightning Storm, pitching all the land cards from your hand, doming your opponent for 20 or something. Now, this deck has been completely reworked, and it's more, yes, it's called Ad Nauseum Combo, but it's really more Spoils of the Vault Thassa's Oracle than it is Ad Nauseum. Ad Nauseum is kind of a holdover from when the deck used to be much more playable. Now, what the deck does is it is trying to use fast mana, things like Lotus Bloom and Pentad Prism, to cast a copy of Ad Nauseum, draw your entire deck, and then find some way to kill your opponent from there. The best thing that it does in that regard is it uses either Angel's Grace or Phyrexian Unlife being in play, and then casts Ad Nauseum. The way Angel's Grace or Phyrexian Unlife work, they're a little bit different. Angel's Grace just keeps you from losing until the end of game, so your life total can go into negatives and there not be a problem. Phyrexian Unlife basically says you can't lose life as long as you have 0 or less life, and then if you have 0 or less life, whenever you take damage, you start getting infect counters. Now, the funny part with this is life loss is not considered damage. A little bit of magic oddity there, but basically Ad Nauseum or Spoils of the Vault causing you to lose life doesn't trigger Phyrexian Unlife. So this is a way to buy you time in the game, as well as to kind of half or a third of your combo, depending on which combo route you go. Now, the deck has 2 distinct routes for winning. The first one is assemble the 3-card combo of Spoils of the Vault, Angel's Grace or Phyrexian Unlife, and Thassa's Oracle. Basically, what you do is you either get your Phyrexian Unlife into play first, or you cast your Angel's Grace. You then cast Thassa's Oracle, making sure that resolves first. Then once the trigger goes on the stack for that, cast Spoils of the Vault, exiling your entire library. When Thassa's Oracle trigger resolves, you win the game. Even if they kill Thassa's Oracle in response, you have 0 cards. X is greater 0. X is equal then or greater to 0. You win the game. The other alternative is either cast Grace or cast Phyrexian Unlife, then cast Ad Nauseum. This allows you to draw your entire deck. Theoretically, if you do this and you still have a land drop to make, you can win the game. Either a land drop to make that turn, a Pentad Prism counter still around, or a floating blue mana. You can then win the game with casting Intervention Pack, and then countering it with an offer you can't refuse. Gives you 2 treasure tokens. 2 treasure tokens, sacrifice them, double blue, cast your Thassa's Oracle, win the game. It's basically your 2 paths to victory in the main deck. The rest of the deck is all about either protecting the combo or finding the combo pieces. So you have things like Preordain and Profane Tutor to find your missing piece. You have Pentad Prism, Lotus Bloom to give you a little bit of extra mana, Thoughtseize, and Pact of Negation to protect the combo. The other thing you have in this particular build is 1 copy of the One Ring to be able to, buy yourself some time, draw some cards. Not a terrible card to have a 1 of as a Profane Tutor target. And then, 3-color mana base with City of Brass, which has some weird text with Angel's Base. Basically, you can tap City of Brass, put the damage trigger on the stack, then cast Angel's Grace. So even if you're at 1, you can still use City of Brass to cast your Angel's Grace the turn you're comboing. The sideboard is kind of set up to do various different things. Either disrupt your opponent for a little bit to buy you some time, more protection for your combo, or different win cons depending on what it is. Silence, way to protect the combo through counter spells, something similar with Spell Pierce and Veil of Summer, allows you to win through that, discard spells, etc., especially Veil of Summer. Fracture, this allows you to deal with problematic things from your opponent, for instance, Chalice of the Void, which unfortunately is kind of relevant against us, even though it shouldn't be, but it does blank Profane Tutor and Lotus Bloom, as well as Pact of Negation. Lavinia, opponents can't cast spells if it's greater than the number of lands they have, or if they have no 0 mana. This is not notably both sides, so it only affects your opponents, so you can get away with playing this card. Helps against Rhinos and Living End to buy some time. Rest in Peace, any type of graveyard nonsense. Chromatic Lantern, I'm presuming this is mainly to play through things like Blood Moon and such, while also giving a little bit of extra mana boost. Laboratory Maniac as an extra win con in case your opponent extracts your win cons, your Thassa's Oracles. Leyline of Sanctity, this is primarily here for Thoughtseize-esque effects. Dragon Lord Dramoka, very similar to Lotus Field combo. This is just some big threat you can play, keeps your opponent's counter spells from being relevant. Can also win the game on its own sometimes, depending on what you're playing against. Then Prismatic Mending, March of Otherworldly Light, anti-hate card pieces, also as a way to buy you time in certain matches. This version of the deck, obviously no ring. The main deck is very similar. There really isn't a whole lot of difference other than, say, the mana bases. But you are running pretty much the same tight main deck, depending on what bullet targets you have with Profane Tutor. Your sideboard, kind of breaks down the same way. Additional ways to fight through counter spells, additional disruption for combo and against other counter spell decks. Fracture and Lavinia, 4 copies of Leyline of Sanctity, and then kind of the same cards. It's not a whole lot different with this list, but I did figure it was nice to show a list that did not have access to the One Ring. And finally, this one's just a tiny bit different with what it's trying to do. You have the 4 copies of Preordained, 1 Sleight of Hand, no Thoughtseize in the main deck. What it does with those extra slots is a couple copies of Teferi Time Raveler, which obviously keeps your opponents from casting spells during your turn, and then Jace Wilbur Mysteries as an alternative win con that kind of is a split card of the One Ring to draw cards and kind of a win con in that regard, and then an alternative version to Thassa's Oracle that you can potentially play in advance. Rest of the deck, like I said, main deck's not a whole lot different. Sideboard, you're going to see a lot of the same cards, although you do see Teferi, you do see Flusterstorm. So this deck, I think, was a little bit more slanted towards being the Rhinos meta, but you're not seeing a whole lot different. There's really not a whole lot of room in this deck, as it is kind of pretty stock in terms of what you can put in it. You're seeing 20 to 21 lands between all the builds. You're seeing 4 Preordained. It's just a matter of what protection you're running in the main deck, whether you're running Thoughtseizes, Teferis, additional Pacts of Negation, etc. As far as the deck's place in the meta, now, the hard part with this deck is it is, basically 3 or 4 card combos that you have to assemble. You have to either assemble the Thassa's Oracle, Spoils of the Vault, Angel's Grace, or Thassa's Oracle, Spoils of the Vault, Phyrexian Unlife, or you have to assemble Grace or Phyrexian Life ad nauseum, then find your intervention pact, an offer you can't refuse, to set up the other kill, and then the rest of it is finding and protecting the combo. So you don't have a lot of dig, you don't have a lot of extra things going on. So if your opponent has extraction effects, counter spells, basically any form of disruption, or as you'll see in this video, the one hard counter to this deck used to be Infect, because most of your protection doesn't stop Infect, it stops damage. And it's just kind of ironic that we ran into like the one matchup that this deck used to be absolutely terrible against back when Infect was a bigger part of the meta, and this deck was a bigger part of the meta. But it's basically a turn 4 combo deck, has some ways protected stuff, but the problem is, you have to find a 3-piece combo. That's not the easiest thing to do in a format as fast and brutal as Modern. But that said, Modern is in a bit of a mid-range grindfest mess at this point. Even the combo decks are basically turn 4 combo decks. Rhinos, Living End, Amulet's a bit tricky, but you can buy yourself a turn, with an Angel's Grace or Phyrexian Life or the One Ring. So I don't know that this deck would be terribly placed at this point in the meta, but it's not a deck that people were playing much even when it was in its heyday, and it is a bit of a... It can kind of fold to itself. Like, the games you'll see in this video, we were very lucky to find pieces that we were missing, and we weren't missing like any of the elements. The one advantage that this version has is it's not as... The other version required you to have either 5 or 6 mana to go off, because you either had to have Phyrexian on life in play and play a Nauseum. So you minimally had to have the 5 mana. Now this version can go off with 4 mana, period, as long as you have the right colors. One for Spoils the Vault, 1 for Angel's Grace, 2 for Thassa's Oracle. So it's not a terrible place to be for the deck, but I don't know how well positioned it is. But it is a turn 4 combo deck with some protection for its combo. Has access to all colors of mana, allowing it to play things like Veil of Summer, Pact of Negation, an offer they can't refuse, although that's sometimes part of the actual combo with a Nauseum. Spell Pierce, Blusterstorm, Thoughtseize. So this does feel like a deck that should perform slightly better than it does, but just never seems to show up. So gotta presume that means it's just because it doesn't play well in the format overall. And it has notably gotten some upgrades even since the banning of Simian Spirit Guide, with obviously Thassa's Oracle, Preordained being unbanned, Profane Tutor being printed, different sources of protection. So deck feels like it's gotten some upgrades. Obviously the cost of the redundancy of the combo with Lightning Storm, but let's get into some games, see how this deck plays out. Alright, quick game with Nausem Combo. Alright, so we currently have Spoils the Vault, second combo piece. I do think we keep this hand. That's kind of everything we want. Then obviously the mana base is extremely painful. Alright, so we need 4 mana to combo, because you need Spoils the Vault, Thassa's Oracle, and Thassa's Oracle and Angel's Grace. So this is an island. Keep the island, and then next turn we suspend Profane Tutor. So it's a matter of, can we stay alive until then? The deck plays Windswept Heath. Infect? Seriously? Yep, looks like we might be up against Infect, which is like, ironically, one of this deck's worst matchups. These 2 main queues are just wild, man. So turn 2, they play their Infect creature of choice, possibly multiple. So we'll have to hold up an offer we can't refuse next turn. Hope that's good enough. But we do need to draw another land at the moment and another combo piece. Huh. Is there multiple Pact of Negations in this deck? Okay, there it is. I was like, I know I bottomed one of those. I'm like, okay, well. The problem with this deck is you do need 3. Mm-hmm. Which means we're in fact dead here. Gotta love infect. Alright, probably bring in light permission spells. None of these other ones. I guess we could theoretically bring in silence. Pact of Negation's like a little awkward against them. Like they'll have spell pierces and some amount of stuff, but at the same time, Phyrexian Life doesn't do much in this matchup. Back in the day, this was ironically one of the deck's worst matchups. I feel like the ring's too slow in this matchup, so. Alright, what does this hand do? And we'll try it. We've got Lotus Bloom, Preordain. We have Grace, so. Keep that. Suspend Lotus Bloom. Problem with Infect is Infect without being interacted against is a turn 3 deck, and we're a turn 4 deck. So problem with a Nauseum is you need 7 mana to turn you off for it to be a Nauseum for the kill. Mm-hmm. Priest's annoying, but it's also kind of whatever here. So we somehow gotta live one more turn. Okay, that certainly helps. Okay, does that allow us to get where we need to go? So I played this deck when it was part of, when it had Simian Spirit Guide and was Lightning Storm. So I haven't played a lot of, actually I haven't played any with the deck. That's one infect, 2 infect, 3, 4. Mm-hmm. Are we dead if they have another scale up? So 2, 6, 7, 8. Dead to freaking Xaxes, man. Because we got the 2 from Rot Priest. And happens sometimes. I mean, we were set up for the combo both turns, but we just died on turn 3, so it happens. But thanks for tuning into our guide for Nausem Combo in the modern format. Don't forget to check in every Sunday for our weekly stream and every week for our new deck guide or updated deck guide for a deck in modern. See ya. I don't normally do 2 gameplay matches in these videos, but given how quick the first one was and how lopsided the getting smacked was, yeah, definitely keep Profane Tutor, Spoils the Vault. This is basically 2/3 of the combo, or potentially half the combo depending on what you're doing, but okay. With this bloom, you're a bit late to the party, but we'll keep you nonetheless. Because if this is Rhinos or something, we might be in for a bit of a longer game. So, hard to tell if this is Rhinos or Murktide. The thing I always liked about Nauseum is, it was always, the A+B combo deck, but it also could keep itself alive for a turn or two. It was just more, it didn't have things like Preordain. You had Sleight of Hand and I don't remember what the other one was. I feel like we're going to get iced here, which probably means this is Rhinos. Nope. No icing. Fan Tutor. Pass. Probably, actually, this could be Living End, I suppose. Living End with just a terribly slow start. Nope. Gotta be Rhinos then. Guess it could also be Battle of the Combo Decks Neoform combo. Merfolk. Well, ain't Merfolk having a terrible time of things. Okay. See our Grace. Our 4th land pass. Yeah, Trickster I literally don't care about. The only card in their main deck that semi-matters is Voldaren. Well, besides whatever counter spells they're running, is Voldaren Hexcatcher. So, sure. Yeah, ironically, none of these matter. Oracle. They would literally at this point need start by asking for grace. I can't do anything about this, so. Alright. Opponent didn't even wait to see if we had the third card of the combo, so. Alright, opponent conceded. That works for me. But, yeah, you got to see the combo here in action. Thassa's Oracle, and then we would Spoils the Vault, get rid of our entire deck, win with Thassa's Oracle. So, this deck generally wins on turn 4, turn 5. But, yeah. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe if you like modern deck guides, and check out our stream every Sunday where we're usually streaming Modern Jund or of late Niv to Light.